Your morning wake-up call. David Zublick's Awake Nation. Truth with a shot of espresso starts now.
Well, a Florida man, and it's always Florida. We've been doing a lot of Florida.
It is always Florida.
God, what is it with these people in Florida? Folks, if you live in Florida, could you please explain to me why everybody's weird? A 55-year-old Florida man is facing a felony charge for impersonating a pizzeria.
What?
Police say Jose Marti Alvarez ran a scheme where he would distribute flyers to hotel rooms in Miami Springs, pretending to be Roman's Pizzeria, a well-known local pizza parlor. He would deliver a pizza, but it was substandard, bad, uncooked, sometimes just a piece of uncooked dough. By the time the tourists complained, he'd be gone with the money and leaving the real Roman's Pizzeria to handle the complaints. Police said the fraud had been going on for several years. The owner of Roman's Pizzeria, Jesus Roman, finally went to the police, and Marti Alvarez was arrested Monday morning for his crime. His scheme collapsed like a row of dominoes. Busted for Bad's Pizza, and yet Sparrow's is still allowed in shopping malls. I don't understand that.
Well, you know, all the malfeasance in Florida has to do with the crime wave that moved there from other parts, from like California, Hollywood, New York.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're just the dregs of society are now living in Florida, and that, you know, at one time, I'm dead serious about this. At one time, I seriously considered moving to Florida. My wife and I love it there. We go there several times a year, but what we decided was we're just going to continue to go there several times a year, especially during the bad weather months of winter, and we continue to live up here in Michigan. I mean, hopefully at some point we have elected Republicans before and conservatives in our state, and we will again. Right now, we're going through a very liberal phase with a trashy governor, but we'll survive. I'm going to stay right here. I actually like the change of seasons. I like fall. I like when the leaves turn and we go, you know, picking apples in the orchard in the fall.
Oh, that's so nice.
I like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So,
well, you know, speaking of moving, I mean, Putin just dropped a bombshell and said, anybody who doesn't like the liberal agenda can come move in Russia.
No, I think that's, listen, some people might want to take him up on it because this guy, you know, love him or hate him, and I don't hate the guy. I think I have a lot of respect for him because they're Christians in Russia. They don't want to put up with all the crap that we're putting up with.
Ukraine just said that they are banning all Christians.
So, well, that's good. So for them, because they're going to be, pretty soon this is all going to be over. You watch. If Trump wins in November, the war ends immediately. Just watch. It'll just the whole thing will be over. So we'll see what happens. But it's been interesting. Did you hear what Barack Obama? He made a joke about Trump's manhood.
Oh Lordy!
At the convention.
There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
He, of course, was married to another man, right? You know, so he probably gets some big schlong whenever he wants it, unless Michelle or Michael is pissed at him. Anyway, good morning. Welcome to the Awake Nation. Truth with a shot of espresso. As we do it again, I'm David Zublick.
I'm Penny L.A. Shepherd. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. Still 2024.
Yes. And by the way, I have received more positive feedback about one particular guest that we had on the program than we have ever had. I mean, they love our regulars, honest to God. But one seems to have generated just a ton of response. And that's the guest we have coming up this morning, Jesse Beltran.
Yes.
Havana Syndrome individual. A lot of people, when he's going to be on, they say you got to watch the show. So, folks, he's coming up in a little bit less than an hour. So we're excited to have him.
Good day from David Zublick's Awake Nation, and welcome to our guest interviews. Wednesday, August 21, 2024, our guests are Jesse Beltran. Jesse Beltran is a certified master hypnotist and president of Cosmic Clarity Connections, LLC. He exposes the truth behind Havana Syndrome, implants, and targeting. You can find him at mindnexuslive.com. Our next guest is Dr. Rita Louise. Dr. Rita Louise is a naturopathic physician, medical intuitive counselor, and energy healer. She's a graduate of the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and her extensive training on how physical body works, combined with her in-depth knowledge of the subtle energy systems, the trauma response, mindful practices, and more, makes her an expert at identifying and healing what may be troubling you. You can find Dr. Rita at soulhealer.com. Our next guest is Dr. Lana Contos, inspired by wellness. Dr. Lana is a board-certified naturopath and executive health consultant. Go to inspiredbywellness.com wellness shop to purchase Numi and NutraSwish. Her motto is be the boss of your own body. Rounding out the final hour of the Awake Nation is Amy Holum, amysaudios.com. Amy is a certified audio and video forensic technician. She has dedicated her time and effort to help those in need who are experiencing stalking, harassment, hacking, illegal surveillance, illegal monitoring, video voyeurism, child sex trafficking, police brutality, and crimes against humanity. You can find Amy at amysaudios.com. And now for the interview portion of David Zublick's Awake Nation. And awake we go with a shot of espresso. It's showtime.
All righty. Welcome back to the Awake Nation. Truth with a shot of espresso. Joining us now, our very first guest, Jesse Beltran. Jesse, good morning. Welcome back to the program. Glad to have you back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, glad to be back.
Yes, and David just announced that you're one of our most sought-after guests. As a matter of fact,
I've got so much feedback about your appearance on the show, and when they heard you coming on again, it's all over social media. So, man, you are popular.
Well, I've been doing a lot of shows lately. It seems to be a hot topic right now, so the timing's right. And I've got a wallop for you guys today. We've intercepted some internal documents that are smoking guns that we'll share with you. I have a little bit more experience with your format now, so I know how to share the materials with you.
Excellent.
And some declassified documents that to share with your audience today.
excellent.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I was hearing you about the weather manipulation, and I was intrigued by it because on your last show, we were speaking to the audience about the Havana Syndrome and the testimony that was presented by Colonel Greg Edgren at the Department of Homeland Security. And with this phenomenon, he said that the Havana Syndrome phenomenon, or AHIs, was happening on every continent with the exception of one place, and that was Antarctica. And there's a gentleman who I would love to have a constructive conversation with him, but apparently he has this aversion to hypnotherapists. And being that I'm a retired firefighter and he is a brother firefighter, I thought maybe that we can open up that dialogue. But he is a firefighter for Raytheon.
Oh, wow.
And he works in Antarctica.
Oh, my God.
And he speaks about this technology there and these type of array systems. It's embedded in the snow out there. That is a weather manipulation tool. And he said how he, in his interviews, I've heard, he's talked about how earthquakes were accidentally caused in New Zealand, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. But it brings me back to Colonel Edgren's testimony. He said that, again, this was happening on every continent with the exception of Antarctica. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very, very curious about that statement, because Eric says that this is the mechanism of where this frequency is being emitted. So I'm really curious about that. So I'll have to delve into that a little bit more.
Excellent. Maybe on your next show you can bring that forth as well. Actually,
Yes.
it was Mike that brought that to my attention. I was like, huh. So I did like a kind of a cursory dive on it yesterday.
So, okay, well, I've got some great stuff to share with you. I'll start off with this. I've got permission finally from one of our clients that we had implants removed from that are what the size they are today. They're nano size. And let me see if I can share my screen here. Hopefully this will work.
Secretary of State John Kerry at one point visited Antarctica. I think it was way back in 2016. And no one's allowed to go down there. So there's all kinds of crap going on in that area.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
Yeah.
Well, Brad has been there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Brad Olson?
Yeah. Brad Olson? Yes.
Yes, he's been there a couple of times. I guess I would presume there are areas though that you cannot go to.
Correct. Can you see my screen?
No.
Oh boy.
Just go.
This is what I was afraid of. There we go.
It's the plus sign.
There we go.
Present. There it is.
Let me bring it on in there
Perfect.
for you. There we go. There you are.
Okay, so this is a report. This client is one of my oldest clients who came to me almost 14 years ago, and we did an RF scan on her, and she came up positive in areas around her person. And you can see there, it's a collection of 3 specimens. This is a pathology report. In the report, it talks about these being electronic sensors when they examined them under high-powered microscopes. And this is what they look like today. These are nano size. These are nano wires, and our bodies do not reject them. And the technology is such now that these can fit many of these inside the tip of a very, very small needle. Okay. And what was interesting is there is a court case that happened in California against the Department of Corrections. And in that court case, let me see, where is she? I apologize.
That's okay. We'll take it.
Yeah. In that court case, this is a Devon DeVore. She was an RN for the Department of Corrections who became a whistleblower. You can see it wasn't too long ago that this case was filed.
Right.
And because she became a whistleblower, she became part of this program. And this is what's part of the evidence. She intercepted a document. She had an idea what was going on with her, but didn't have the proof. And notice what it says, IntelliConnection, a security division of IBM. Confidential, limited distribution, level 9. This means that it can only be distributed amongst high-level managers. And it talks about a 2020 neural implant. It says the control of crime will be paramount, a paramount concern in the 21st century. We must be ready with our security products when the demand for them becomes popular. Our research and development division has been in contact with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the California Department of Corrections, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the Massachusetts Department of Corrections to run limited trials of the 2020 neural chip implant. We have established representatives of our own interest in both management and institutional levels within these departments. So they're getting their own people hired by these organizations. And if we go down to the 3rd paragraph, it says, in California, several prisoners were identified as members of a security threat. Again, they're doing this to protect us. They were brought to a health service unit in Pelican Bay and tranquilized with advanced sedatives developed by our Cambridge, Massachusetts laboratory. The implant procedure takes 60 to 90 minutes depending upon the experience of the technician. We are working on a device which will reduce the time by as much as 60%. The results of implants on 8 prisoners yielded the following results. Implants served as surveillance monitoring devices for the threat. These not only track them, but whatever is in their environment, it's a two-way communication system. So they can hear what's going on within your environment if you're implanted with this. That means you speaking to anyone, any conversation you have. Implants disabled 2 subjects during an assault on correctional staff. So they know that they can completely incapacitate you if you have this neural network implanted in you. And here's where it gets crazy. Universal side effects in all 8 test subjects revealed that when implants were set to 116 megahertz, subjects became lethargic and slept on an average of 18 to 22 hours per day.
Dang.
All subjects refused recreation periods for 14 days during the 116 megahertz test evaluation. 7 of the 8 subjects did not exercise in the cell, for long periods of time. Obviously, if you're going to make them lethargic, you're not going to want to do that. But each subject was monitored for aggressive activity during the test period, and the findings are conclusive. Out of the 8 test subjects exhibited no aggression, even when provoked.
Wow.
So basically, these implants monitor the person. Whoever's monitoring them at the other end can hear and see what they're hearing and seeing. And if there's going to be some form of aggression on their part, they can instantly disable the person.
That's exactly what that is. And that's only when they send the 116 megahertz. Right. But there's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Barry Trower who we interviewed in United Kingdom. Yeah, he's an electromagnetic weapons specialist, and he was an agent. And he came forward to expose this, and he can tell you exactly what frequency you need to transmit to someone in order to get a specific result. He talked about protesters around military bases of women who were pregnant. They would send a frequency to them and would cause spontaneous abortions.
Oh my God.
You can send a frequency, a specific frequency, and I'm not going to disclose these frequencies, but you can see his interview. But you can send a frequency and cause heart attacks. So all of these, and all of this is adjuncts is just to make it look like it's natural. But the real truth is it's very covert. So when we came across this document, we're like, bingo. Now, how does this relate to the topic today? For your listeners who may have missed the first episode, I addressed the Havana Syndrome, and recently the Department of Homeland Security had a hearing with 3 witness testimonies, one of them being Colonel Egren. And Egren is fighting to at least get a code for the VA that covers Havana Syndrome so that all of these federal employees can get help. Now, what is Havana Syndrome real quickly? It's described as a very acute onset of unusual sounds. Usually it's high-pitched in nature. And let's see, get back. High-pitched in nature. It causes vertigo, nausea, vomiting, headaches, short-term, long-term memory losses. Actually causes brain changes under MRIs. They'll get electrical shocks to their extremities. So just a variety of symptoms, but it's all very acute. And I have been covering this topic since, along with the gentleman by name of Dr. John Hall, since late 2009, early 2010. And there was a hearing in 2011 by the Presidential Bioethics Commission formed by President Obama. Amy Gutmann was the chair. She's now our ambassador to Germany at the UN. Now, there were 300 victims of these exact same symptoms wanting to give testimony. And Dr. Hall gave testimony there saying that they believe it was some type of electromagnetic focused frequency. And that's what the data was showing. And what the Bioethics Commission basically said, they didn't get any credence, and they told everyone that it was, they're just going to have to live with it. And they thought it was some type of psychosis. And that's initially what the United States government said until the Canadian diplomats jumped on board saying that they were having the same complaints. Now, this next document I'm going to share with you was a declassified document in 1994, November of 1994, and it's called New World Vistas. And this was released by the United States Air Force, and it was a group of their greatest minds. And this is 30 years ago, and it talks about where they want to be 50 years into the future. Now, we're right in the midst of what they were predicting where we would be at with these technologies and this. And when I read it, and you correlate this document that we intercepted, internal document from the Department of Corrections, it really opens up your eyes as to where we're at in the midst of these things. Now, let me pull that up real quick.
While you're doing that real quickly with regard to these implants again, do we know if there's any technology being worked on or already available which would, similar to Minority Report type things, even if someone is thinking of doing something, they would be able to intercept their thoughts?
And that is exactly, I believe, where we're going.
Right.
Because the technology is able to record your EEG signal, and it can retransmit that. And so what does that mean? It means that they can now begin to know how you think, what you're thinking. And this is a great construct in order to get you to, if they wanted to manipulate you or do a large social engineering project in manipulating the masses. Now, remember, Colonel Egren says this is a world campaign right now. This is happening on every continent except for Antarctica. And that's where we're at. And it's what I'm doing and what we're doing with Cosmic Clarity Connections and the Mind Nexus conference is to awaken the general population, because the general population is really had their heads in the sand, and it's only because they've been indoctrinated to believe media, believe the scientists that are being put forth in the media, and the critical thinking factor is basically being erased from society. Now, this is the New World Vistas report. This was forwarded to me by someone who I trust very much, and this was obtained in 1995. It's Defense Technical Information Center, and this is where the think tanks were back in 30 years ago, but we know it was longer than that because it took a long time to put this assessment together. And it says, this is biological processes control. This is page 89 of the report. I just made a shorter version so I can talk about the highlighted areas. And it goes, as we look forward into the future, it seems likely that this nation will be involved in multiple conflicts, where our military forces increasingly will be placed in situations where the application of the full force capabilities of our military cannot be applied. We will be involved ultimately with hostile populations in situations where the population of non-lethal force will be the tactical or political preference. It appears likely that there are a number of physical agents that might actively but largely benignly interact or interfere with biological processes in an adversary, in a manner in which will provide our armed forces the tools to control these adversaries without extensive loss of life or property. These physical agents could include acoustic fields, optical fields, electromagnetic fields, and a combination thereof. This paper will address only the prospect of physical regulation of biological processes using electromagnetic fields. It says, prior to the mid-21st century, there will be a virtual explosion of knowledge in the field of neuroscience. We will have achieved a clear understanding of how the human brain works, how it really controls the various functions of the body, and how it can be manipulated both positively and negatively. One can envision the development of electromagnetic energy sources, the output of which can be pulsed, shaped, and focused. That can couple with the human body in a fashion that will allow one to prevent voluntary muscle movements. Remember the prisoners.
Yes.
Control emotions,
Yes.
produce sleep, transmit suggestions, interfere with both short-term and long-term memory, produce an experience set, and delete an experience set. This will open the door for the development of some novel capabilities that can be used in armed conflict, in terrorist hostage situations. Remember Waco? They screwed up there. They tried to use this. And in training. New weapons that offer the opportunity of control of an adversary without resorting to a lethal solution or collateral casualties that can be developed around this concept. This would offer significant improvements in capabilities of our special operations forces. Initial experimentation be focused on the interaction of electromagnetic energy and the neuromuscular junctions involved in voluntary muscle control. That sounds pretty crazy, but it gets worse. It would also appear possible to create high-fidelity speech in the human body, raising the possibility of covert suggestion and psychological direction. When a high-powered microwave pulse in the gigahertz range strikes the human body, a very small temperature perturbation occurs. This is associated with the sudden expansion of a slightly heated tissue. This expansion is fast enough to produce an acoustic wave. If a pulse stream is used, it should be possible to create an internal acoustic field in the 5 to 15 kilohertz range, which is audible. Thus, it may be possible to talk to selected adversaries in a fashion that would be most disturbing to them. They wanted to project the voice of God to David Koresh.
Yeah.
We did use this. We did use this in Desert Storm. This is why they thought they were hearing Allah's voice, and they were just giving up to our soldiers.
Right.
In comparison to the discussion in the paragraphs above, the concept of imprinting an experience set is highly speculative, but nonetheless highly exciting. Modern electromagnetic scattering theory raises the prospect that ultra-short pulse scattering through the human brain can result in reflective signals that can be used to construct a reliable estimate of the degree of central nervous system arousal. The concept behind the remote EEG, this is what you asked me earlier, is to scatter off of action potentials or ensembles of action potentials in major central nervous system tracts. Assuming we will understand how our skills are imprinted and recalled, it might be able to take the concept one step further and duplicate the experience to set in another individual. So we're there. We're in the midst of it. They're talking about.
Here's something else, Jesse, that I feel is they're talking about supposedly a noble goal in preventing. I mean, even though it's completely abhorrent to me, the entire process, their supposed idea of stopping someone from committing a violent act and all this sort of thing sounds on the surface noble, even if what they're trying to do is wrong. However, what's to stop them from implanting the idea and using someone as a patsy to go off and program them to go kill somebody or assassinate a public official and that sort of thing? In other words, instead of preventing a crime, using them to create one in an individual that would not have violent tendencies normally.
Yeah, well, this was the Aaron Alexis issue that I spoke to you about. Remember, he and Myron May contacted me before they went and killed the people that they did. Aaron killed 16 people at the Navy Yard. Aaron killed 3 people at the university in Florida. Aaron Alexis inscribed in the butt of his gun, the rifle, "This is my ELF weapon." He was complaining of these exact same symptoms that our diplomats, our CIA agents, our FBI agents, who are all the best of our best, who are being afflicted by this and being taken out of commission. There's no difference. They're the exact same symptoms. And all of these symptoms are exact in what we're finding in our study that we've done over the last 20 years. So we're in the thick of it, and someone out there believes that there's nothing that we can do about it. And this is why it is my mission to make sure that we educate the general population, because the first line of defense is being aware, being in touch with your internal voice, being in touch with who you are and your moral compass. Because as a hypnotherapist and being an expert on suggestibility, I know that studies show that 15 to 30% of our general population, take away the technology of these implants, are highly suggestible.
Yes.
Now, you put that in combination with having these implants with you, where they're transmitting 24/7, 365 days a year, sound to you, which is converted into language. You can get someone who falls in the 95% or 100%, which is called somnambulism, get them to do anything, and you can erase their memories. And that's where we're at. And this is why I do what I do. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's happening. How far back did this has this technology gone? When did they start using this?
Well, we know through a FOIA release that the United States military was experimenting with microchips, implanting microchips in people in the 40s and 50s. And that was a large, it looked like a big tube with a coil in it, large grain of rice. And as the years progressed, they became smaller and smaller grains of rice. And as I demonstrated to you by the implants that we just had removed, that were removed from my client, they're nano-sized now. And I've met with people who worked in the Pentagon, and I expressed in my previous interview with you that I was up in Virginia, and I was invited there, and it was all military subcontractors. Okay, and when I was there, the individuals that I met that worked at the Pentagon wanted to know what I was doing there. I already know they knew what I was doing there. And they said, I talked about the microchip implants, and then he says, oh, we can tell you exactly what year they were made, and just by the design of it. And he says, but if it happens today, you're SOL. He says, they are so small now that X-rays, MRI scans are not going to find them.
How do they get them into people?
Okay, so that's a great question. In our study, what we found is there's several categories of victims. Okay, there's the general population, that's blue collar workers, white collar workers. You can superimpose their scans over each other, and they all match up. Then there's military, those who have been in the military. You superimpose their scans over each other, they all match up. Then now I know why those who have been incarcerated. When you superimpose them over each other, they match up, okay? So that's three categories. I was invited to see a group of business professionals in California. One of them was a music mogul, and I was curious as to, well, why are you contacting me? Well, we heard about what you were doing, and we're just curious and want you to come scan our group. And I said, okay, I'll humor them. I didn't expect to find anything. But when I scanned this group, I was very surprised that a large percentage of them did come up positive on RF scans, but was only in two locations primarily, right and left shoulder. There were a couple of anomalies I think there was a woman who came up positive on her hip and another one on their knee. And I said, did you have anything done there? And they said they all had operations, right. So surgical procedures. So the question that is out there, the big elephant in the room, as I would say, is, well, how are they getting in everyone? The only way, and we know, is by injection. Mm-hmm. And
so technically, the mRNA shots that are being given as vaccines could be used also to implant these things.
I like to testify to what I know is fact. Okay. But I can say this, is that graphene nanotechnology is out there, and it is also self-replicating now. And I have access to university scientific reports, and I am aware that this nanotechnology exists. And the thing about graphene is that it's very, very small. It's one of our smallest particles. It's not even they don't even describe it as a particle. They say it's massless, and our strongest. And Bill Gates talks about these self-replicating technologies that are very inexpensive and very easy to use. Mm-hmm. So I am very concerned about this mass vaccination campaign. that the whole world just went through. So I can't attest that that's what's happening, but I can say the technology is there. And because we're pulling out nano-size implants out of people, you have to say it's not too far-fetched to go down that path if someone is immoral or someone is out to have a specific agenda. And a lot of crazy stuff is happening right now, as we all are aware.
Yes,
How can
Jesse,
people get in touch with?
I was going to say we're running out of time, but I wanted to let you know I'd like to have you back on a regular basis. And you
You
know,
are fantastic,
I'll talk to
Jesse.
you off air because I'd like to seriously. Half hour is just definitely not enough time for you, so we need to keep bringing you back.
Okay, not a problem. I'd love to. And for everyone that's out there, we need your support. We have a Mind Nexus live event where we're out demonstrating how someone can be manipulated. It's not just about this issue. It's a bunch of issues. We have a bunch of experts. But if you can't attend in person, we do have a live stream opportunity, and you can see the whole 3-day event for only $99, and you'll have 1 year of access to all of these speeches.
And how do they get to your website to sign up for anything?
It's MIND, nexuslive.com or mindnexustickets.com, and you can get to our website there. And if they use, because they're watching your show, if they use the code MNexus, they'll get $50 off the 3-day event pass.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Jesse Beltran, we're going to have you on a regular basis. This is important information, and we're very happy to help you get it out. And we appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity for the platform. Yes. Thank you.
We'll talk to you again real soon. Thank you. Jesse Beltran here on the Awake Nation.
Wowza. Wowza.
Oh. All right, folks. Everything. Now we know why he's in such high demand and why everybody loves him so much. This guy's got some great information, very disturbing information, very important information. Let's bring in our next guest, Dr. Rita Louise. Her website is soulhealer.com. Dr. Rita, good morning.
Good morning. I am mind controlled.
No, you're not.
You know, Jesse is extremely important. His work is extremely important. And as our audience knows, I believe I have some implants in me. And I believe my brother, David, who was murdered, has had the voice of God implanted in him at one particular point. So
I remember when I was a kid, I had the fear of God implanted.
I know.
In me.
Me
Usually
too.
by
I
your
still
parents
do.
and the nuns and everything else, but nothing like this. Great Amy Holland. Please tell your friends about this great show that we do. Subscribe, okay, to both our BitChute and our Rumble channel, whatever one you're watching this live on. And be here again Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 7 to 10 Mountain, or 6 to 9 a.m. Pacific. We will be back tomorrow, Thursday. Wow, the 22nd.
I know, right?
Do it all over again. Thank you. In the meantime, we're out of time, so we are out of here. Have a great rest of the day. Zublik out.
Shepherd out.